Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. We are going to be testing out a couple of new things here today. I have a couple of new items I picked up from Sydney Grace during their recent sale, including their new cream blushes, which are absolutely beautiful. I'll just give you that little spoiler. Got some new shadows from them, and I have some new brushes that we're gonna try out. These were sent to me, and I was shocked to see these brushes show up on my doorstep, and they're pretty impressive and affordable. So this should be a fun one. Before we get into the makeup, if you are new here, very special welcome to you. Please consider subscribing to my channel, give it a thumbs up, make sure notifications are turned on. And with all of that said, let's just get to it. First thing, I have a new lip balm that Persona sent me. They sent me this along with a couple of their new blush sticks. We're gonna save those for another video, but I have been using this for the last couple of weeks. I've had it kind of here on my desk. I've taken it in my purse. It's really nice. I mean, it's just a basic lip balm. Kind of reminds me of the Laneige one, which, by the way, I had lost my Laneige Glowy Balm for almost a year, and I finally found it just last week, actually. But this one's really nice. Called their Day Mask Peptide Lip Balm. As you can see, it's basically clear. It has a very light kind of bubblegum pink and kind of maybe subtly shimmery effect to it. Not a lot. It's really just more glossy than anything, but it's pretty comfortable. Let's jump right into foundation. I don't have a new foundation. I'm just gonna throw something on really quick. Let's go with my Super Stay. I'm gonna mix this with my Physicians Formula BB cream. This actually makes a nice little combination. My Super Stay right now is just a little bit too dark for me on its own, and I'm gonna put this on with a brush today. The Physicians Formula BB cream, this is their Diamond Perfector Mineral BB cream. This has much lighter coverage than the Super Stay skin tint. This has a solid high medium coverage. This is more of like a light medium, but I kind of like the combination together. I just get nearly medium coverage, especially if I'm using a brush. The color is just right. So I got my hair like professionally done. My sister she does hair professionally, but she did it for me just before the wedding about 3 weeks ago now. And it's starting to grow into the point where I need to start considering touching up my roots, and I hate to do that. Oh, for those of you that have quite a bit of gray hair that you're trying to still mask with hair color, you'll know how real the struggle is. I always wish when I get my hair done that I could pause my hair growing for at least a month, because it feels like it so quickly is undone by my roots growing in. And back when my hair was not gray in random spots, I'm very gray in some spots and then not so gray in other spots. I used to be able to get away with it. Like the regrowth would just look kind of, I was fine with it. But now that I have like spotty grayness, it just doesn't look very good. But I'm not quite ready to let go. I know I've had this conversation before. I feel like anytime I talk about my hair, I lament about my going gray issues. Man, it is high maintenance for someone that does not like to be too high maintenance. It's a struggle. Okay, let's add a bit of, let's go with concealer first. Oh, I forgot to mention, we're gonna be trying out some new brushes that were sent to me by Alter Ego. I was very excited to see these the moment I opened the package they sent me, which included an eyeshadow palette that we're gonna get to in a future video coming up very soon that I'm so thrilled about, but that's not what we're talking about today. They also sent me this brush set, which the moment I opened it, I was like, that looks awfully familiar to me. Clearly this is meant to be a dupe for one of my very recent favorite tries, the Angie Hot and Flashy brush set. Now I've used a couple of these so far. I have felt all of them. I opened them all up and kind of felt them. I don't think they're gonna be exactly the same. I can just tell the stiffness of these is a little bit different, but I do like Alter Ego's brushes, and if you don't wanna spend $150 or so on this set, this might be nice to consider, and we are gonna use them today. So, very excited that they have a dupe. Again, let me just show you guys. So, this is the concealer brush from Angie BK Beauty and Angie Hot and Flashy, the A506, which I absolutely love. This has been transformational for me more recently. And then this is the dupe that Alter Ego has done. You can tell, like when you push on it, I don't know, maybe you won't be able to tell on camera. This one has much more give to it. Like this one is a lot more flexible. You can tell it's not quite so full, not quite so dense, but shape-wise, they seem very similar. My guess is they'll probably blend relatively similarly, but we'll see. And the same goes for like the bronzer brush, which it just feels a little bit less full and large and kind of thick, but we're gonna give them a try, and we're going to apply my Physicians Formula concealer today. This is Fair to Light, which we're gonna use just as my eyelid primer. Tiny bit right here. This one is far too light for me. I don't wanna go too heavy with this one because it's so light. And then I have this shade, which is medium to tan, which is way too dark for me. I actually meant to pick another shade. Oh well. I think the light to medium is a really good match for me. But this one works if I combine it with a little bit of the lighter shade. I do still love this concealer. It's still perhaps my favorite or one of my favorite drugstore concealers. And I've heard a couple people, I've watched it show up in 1 or 2 people's videos that really didn't like it. And anytime that happens, I don't know, makes me feel a little bit insecure. Like, wait, why did I like it so much? Do I not really know what I'm talking about? I'm sort of kidding. Not everything works for everybody. I recognize that. I think we all probably do. Okay, and now I'm going to blend that today using the Alter Ego 101 brush, which is a dupe for the Angie Hot and Flashy A506, or clearly meant to be a dupe. Let's start on the perimeter of the face because that's so light. I don't want to spread that lighter color all over. Okay, it definitely feels different. I'm not getting the, I don't know. It's just very flexible. I mean, I imagine it's gonna do a good job. It seems like it's blending well. I just really like the bounce that I get from this one because it is so full. I feel like you don't have to work as hard. Whereas this one, it seems like there's not as many bristles maybe. So it just feels like it's not as large. Like I don't feel like it's really covering as large of an area. Okay, I'm actually gonna add just a tiny bit of this darker shade. Go down the center of my nose. It's blending well though. Maybe it's one of those things if I got used to it, like performance-wise, it probably performs similarly. I'm just used to the full fill of the other brush. This one just doesn't feel quite as full. But it seems like it's doing a pretty good job. Okay, and my eyes are going to look absolutely crazy with this very light concealer on them today. Okay, let's add a little bit of powder just to my eyelids alone. Maybe a little bit to my forehead as well. Let's take that bronzer brush. This is the 102. And we're just gonna apply a little bit of my Rimmel to the lids. Make sure my foundation's kind of not settling. And just go with forehead and maybe here, sides of the face. I hope I blended all that concealer out. Okay, let's now move over to my brows. I don't have anything new for my brows. Today we're gonna use my Sydney Grace brow powder. I've kind of taken a break from this as I've been using a couple of different tinted brow gels, including this Pretty Smart one. I keep wanting to say for that new brand, the Pretty Smart brand. I'm constantly calling it Pretty Fresh. Which I'm like, is that a ColourPop thing? Is that where I get that? Keep making that mistake. By the way, I just threw a little bit of my e.l.f. Shape and Stay in my brows to start off with, and then we're going to take my Sydney Grace brow palette, and I'm just gonna go in. This is the soft brown palette. I'm gonna take this lightest shade right here, and I'm just gonna lightly fill these in. To set those down, let's jump over to a product I have not used for a while. It's just this little soap from, I got this on Amazon. I think it was like $3. It's a lot like the soap set or the Feather Effect from ColourPop. They're all kind of similar. There's like basically like a dry bar that you kind of wet. So I'm just gonna get my spoolie a little bit wet. I have not used this for a while. It is so dry. Oh my gosh. I hope this will like soften back up. Maybe it's like expired. It feels like sandpaper on the top. I feel like I'm painting with watercolor paints with this. Seriously, it's kind of fun, actually. We'll see, this might not work the way that it used to because it was so dry, but we'll see. I feel like with a soapy product like that, you should be able to rehydrate it, right? All right, I'm just gonna brush that through, a little bit wet. In an effort to soften that up, my brush was a little bit too wet, but seems like it's starting to set down. Okay, now let's move on to the cheeks. I have a new blush that we're gonna be trying out from Sydney Grace. I picked up 2 of their cream blushes that we're gonna swatch and try together. I haven't even opened these yet. They've been on my desk for a couple of weeks. But before I do that, we're gonna take a little bit of bronzer. This is the Physicians Formula Diamond Bronzer. By the way, I don't know if you guys can see this little, I am gonna hit pan, I bet right here, watch. Can you see that little silver spot right there? I love this so much, but man, I burned through this so fast. Just kind of a bummer because I rarely go through bronzers. That said, there was a good month or two where I used this thing a ton. And because it's such a light shade, which I kind of love about it, by the way, this is the Bronze Gem one. I think this is the lightest shade. Because it is so light, like I really need to load it up in my brush to get a good amount of color out of it. But I love the color of it. It's so pretty. It's very, very light. I think this would be very fair skin friendly. And now for the new cream blushes. So as I mentioned, these are from Sydney Grace. This is their cream blush. This one is in the shade Dreamy. So these actually look very small. Let me compare these to something I already own as far as how much product is in them. Okay, actually there it is. So my sticker was cut off on one. I think they have 5 grams in each of these little pots. They kind of remind me like a cream eyeshadow pot. Let's just grab a couple of their cream blushes as a reference. So here is Petal Poppin' from Fenty. This one has 3 grams, so that is quite misleading. I mean, this looks so tiny, but you do get more product in here than you get inside the Fenty one. The Tower 28 cream blush has 4.5 grams, so this one's a little bit closer. So not as small as I initially was thinking. When I opened them, I was a little bit worried that I would be disappointed in the amount of product, but I think it's more than it looks. So let's give these a little swatch first. This one is Lovebirds, which is kind of a peachy nude pink, like a warm pink. So pretty. Ooh, I like the feel of these. They actually feel a lot like the Fenty ones. So there's Lovebirds. That is pretty. It's more pink than I initially was thinking that it might be. I thought it would be maybe a little more kind of like corally. That's just a pretty warm, almost Barbie-ish pink, which I really like shades like that. This one's a little more nude in tone, kind of cooler. This is the shade Dreamy. Ooh, these are pretty. I like the formula feels really nice. So as you can see, this one's much more cool toned. They're both beautiful. Gosh, I'm not sure which one I want to use today. I think my eyes are going to be a little bit more on the cool tone side. Why don't we go with the cooler toned Dreamy? Let's do that. So I'm going to take this on the brush that I always use with my cream blushes. This is the Alter Ego number 4. This comes from their original set that they have that includes the eyes and the face brushes. I don't even know if that's still available on there. I should probably double check. I love this brush. I need to find a good alternative for this one. It is my favorite cream blush. Okay, I just barely dabbed that in there. I'm trying to tap the excess on the back of my hand. There's clearly a lot of excess. So these are pretty pigmented. I don't think you're gonna need very much product. Maybe be a little careful going in with these. Oh, that's beautiful. Love that formula. That's nice. Definitely creamy. I mean, I'm feeling that subtle creaminess on my cheek, which I love. I don't mind one that kind of stays a little bit slightly more tacky. You can always top it with either a translucent powder or another layer of just a lightly pigmented powder blush to kind of set it in place if you're worried about that tackiness, but my cheeks can always use the added hydration. I feel like it makes me look younger when I have some hydration back on my face. Beautiful. That's really nice. I'm gonna take a damp sponge really quickly. I always love to do this because I actually like to kind of over apply my blush and then tap out the edges to make it look a little more natural. But I still get that like maximum color just right in the center. So there's the blush. That's very, very pretty. Let's add a little bit of highlighter. I don't have a new highlighter. We're just gonna take a little bit of my Wet n Wild Petal Poppin', Precious Petals. I knew it was something petal. I've actually not used this that much. This is one of my favorite highlighters for the summertime from the drugstore, and I haven't used it much this summer, and with summer being almost over, this is a little too dark for me in the winter, so I thought I would pull it out today. Okay, let's move on to the eyes. I am dying to show you guys a couple of these eyeshadows. So I got a palette from them. This is during the sale day, so if you're not familiar with the Sydney Grace Christmas in July sale, for this sale, one of the days if you buy a certain amount of product, I think it was if you buy $45 worth of product, you get a free eyeshadow palette. So that's the day that I picked. I picked up the cream blushes. I also got a lip gloss and a couple of single shadows. As pretty as this palette is, and I have used it a couple of times, the thing I'm most excited about is the single shadows that I picked up from them. We're gonna actually use those today, but I do wanna show you guys this palette and include a close-up of the swatches of this one. Very classic Sydney Grace color story. You have some greens, some neutrals, and some pinks. I think this is a really nice color story if you don't mind just a little bit of color, like a little bit of soft color. I love this shimmer right here. We might use this on the inner corner today. We'll see. It's kind of like a very warm pinky gold. For right now, we're gonna set this aside, and this is what I really wanna show you guys. First off, I have mentioned several times, if you watch my videos where I talk about Sydney Grace, I have often mentioned this single little shadow right here. This comes from the Tropicolor palette, which I think is still available for sale on her website, which was done in collaboration with the Fancy Face. So this is the shade Coconut from that palette, and I'm obsessed with this. If I do anyone's makeup ever for a prom, I just did my daughter-in-law's wedding makeup, this is like a staple shade when I really want someone's inner corner and very inner part of their lid to just look really nice and bright without being too shimmery. This is such a beautiful shade, and I have found a duplicate for it from Sydney Grace, or a near duplicate, I should say. And that was this one. This is the shade Buttermilk. I just picked up this single shadow from them, and it's almost exactly like the Coconut one. I think this one has maybe a tiny bit less sheen in it. It's a little bit more matte, but here they are side by side. So this is Buttermilk. This is the Coconut shade. They're both basically a almost matte yellow-based white that is just so beautiful, super pigmented. So if you have discoloration on your eyelids, or if you have dark eyelids, this is going to really brighten them up. Depending on your skin tone, that level of brightness might be a little much if you're more like of a medium or deep skin tone. But even still, like in a small amount, I think this would be beautiful on absolutely anyone if you like that popping kind of inner corner that's not too shimmery. I did a whole video a while ago on covering under eye circles, and this shadow or a shadow like this was kind of a theme in that video. So I'm excited to have one that I can actually recommend to you guys that is available for individual purchase. I absolutely recommend it. It is amazing. So sorry to talk so much about that one. So the other shades I picked up are also lovely. I went with this shade, which is called Puppy Love, kind of like a soft, cooler toned mauvey purple. This one is Carabine, which is kind of a purpley brown. And then this one, oh, I love this. This is called Tall Boots. This is a shimmer or a pressed pigment, which is like their strongest shimmers. And it's just the perfect shade. Look at this, you guys. It's like, it's so beautiful. Sydney Grace probably has dozens of shades that are almost exactly like this. And they're all some of my very favorites. I love these kind of shades. I'm trying to think of what this reminds me of. It actually reminds me of the pinky shimmer in the Unveiled palette. That's this one right here. It was done by a bridal makeup artist. I used this palette on my daughter-in-law's bridal makeup, and it was lovely. I did use this shade though, and it was stunning. Oh, so pretty. So we're gonna use these today, and we're also going to use the Alter Ego brushes. So let's start with the largest blending brush from Alter Ego. This is the 205. So I think this is supposed to be like the A503 from BK Beauty. And you can tell, like, it's a little bit thinner. It doesn't have the stiffness that the BK Beauty one does. I think these are going to be quite different from each other. However, I have used quite a few blending brushes from Alter Ego, and I think they do a really good job. Okay, so we're gonna take this shade first. This is Puppy Love. We're just gonna run that in this outer corner and up through the crease. You know, as much as maybe it sounded like I was complaining about this one not being as dense, there are times that I really love a blending brush that has a lot of give and flexibility in it. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to have a brush that's less dense. All right, now we're gonna let's take the smallest blending brush in that set. This is the Alter Ego 201. Take that same shade on this small blending brush, which is supposed to mimic this one. These actually seem pretty similar to each other. And this we're gonna run on the lower lash line. Okay, now we're gonna take this dark brown, this is Carabine, and let's apply this one. Let's see. Let's take the medium blending brush. This is the 204. It's kind of somewhere in between those two that I already used. And we're going to start smudging that along the lash line, kind of circling it up towards the outer corner. So I'm going to take this in just a little bit more than I normally do because the shimmer that we're going to be topping it with is a lighter shimmer. I don't mind a little bit of this depth being underneath. All right, and now we're going to take Tall Boots, which is the shimmer. And this, why don't we apply this with the flat brush that they included, the 202. This is meant to dupe the Hot and Flashy A505, which is one of my favorite brushes from that set. Especially if you are someone that you don't like to apply shimmers with your fingers, which I still do a lot of the time. This is one of the few brushes that I feel like applies nearly as well as my finger will apply a shimmer. So we'll see if this one is the same. It definitely doesn't have, so ironically, as much as I was saying the other ones were not as dense and had more flexibility, this one I feel like is a little bit stiffer than the BK Beauty Angie Hot and Flashy one. And I like that that one has the flexion in it. This one feels a little stiffer. It's working fine, like it's still applying my shimmer pretty well. But I just love the flexibility of that particular brush. And I also feel like it has just maybe the tiniest bit more reach. Yeah, maybe. See how this is like more triangle shaped? This one's more round at the top. Makes it feel like it has better reach up to your crease. But I'm kind of splitting hairs. They're pretty similar to each other, and I think this is doing just fine. Okay, and now with that same brush, we're gonna take that cream color, Buttermilk, and I'm just going to take that just right on the tip of this, and then we're gonna apply that just right to this little pocket right here. See that amount of brightness that it's giving you? And if you feel like that's too bright, you could certainly apply this with like a fluffy blending brush and you wouldn't get quite the level of pigmentation, or just take a sponge or your finger and kind of blend that out or tap it out just a little bit. Also would make a great brow highlight. I'm not gonna do that today because my brow just does not need to be highlighted. It's plenty big as it is. All right, now we're gonna add a little bit of mascara. I'm just gonna do that off camera. First, I'm gonna add a little bit of my Wet n Wild liner just to my upper waterline. Then I'll throw on a couple coats of my Panorama mascara. Then I'll be right back with you guys. We'll finish off the lips and be done. All right, eyes are finished. Aren't they so pretty? I just love those single shadows. They're absolutely beautiful. If you're looking for a couple new singles, or maybe you don't want to splurge for a whole palette, I would definitely recommend any one of those shades. They're absolutely beautiful. So moving on to the lips, I don't have anything new from Sydney Grace. I actually did have a new lip gloss that I tried from them, but I used it on my daughter-in-law for her wedding and she still has it, and I'm just gonna let her keep it. So we just won't worry about it. It was actually really nice. It kind of reminded me of my Lawless. It was kind of like a pearly, sheer kind of pearly gloss. Reminded me a little bit of Lawless Glazed, which I love. But for today, let's go back to the lifter liners. Last time I tried out the shade Line Leader, and today let's go with the darker one. This is Big Lift, and let's try this out today. I really do like this lip liner. I've used it quite a bit over the last, oh gosh, how long has it been? I've actually had these for a couple of weeks. They're pretty good. I don't know that they're like as long wearing as my Natasha Denona's or About Faces or Charlotte Tilbury, but they're awfully close. They're definitely as good as my LA Girl ones that I like, or even the Essence 8-Hour ones. Those are really nice too. But I would say more than anything, what I like about these are the shades. Sometimes I think nude shades from the drugstore, it's hard to find nudes that are done just right. Like sometimes I feel like they're just a little too pink or maybe a little too brown, a little bit too pigmented, or they just don't look quite right. These are beautiful nude shades, both of these. I've actually used them both a few times and I love them both. They're very classic, very much like a lot of the other shades that I know that I use often and love, but that's not a bad thing. I think some of my favorite shades from Natasha or from Charlotte Tilbury, like these remind me of those kind of shades. Okay, let's add a little bit of gloss. I'm gonna go back to my Super Spicy Plumping Lip Gloss from Maybelline. I kind of love this stuff. There's something about it, it is intense. Like I feel like it needs to have a warning label, which is maybe what that spicy pepper is meant to be. It definitely should be there because it is so intense, but I do feel like it actually plumps my lips a little bit. And I kind of like the unique spicy sensation on my lips. It's different. Okay, and here we have it, guys. This is the completed makeup look using a couple new things from Sydney Grace, some new brushes. Let's start with the brushes. Pretty impressed. I mean, again, I feel like you definitely feel a quality difference between these and the BK Beauty ones. The BK Beauty ones are a little bit nicer as far as how they perform. We'll see how they wash up. I haven't had any issues with the other Alter Ego brushes that I have used, so I don't anticipate that will be an issue, but I think they're a great alternative. I think if you're looking for a set of blending brushes, if you are on a very, very tight budget and you just do not have $100+ to spend on a set of brushes, I think this is going to be a really nice set for you. By the way, I just realized I didn't actually use the bronzer brush for actual bronzer because I used a cream bronzer today. I should have thought through that a little bit better. But these will definitely work, like I can just tell. As for the stuff from Sydney Grace, particularly the cream blushes, this is the thing that I've just been dying to try from them for a while. They're very, very nice. They do remind me a lot of like the Tower 28 cream blush, some Milani cream blushes, the Fenty cream blushes. They just have that really nice kind of balmy cream effect. Really good pigmentation, super easy to blend. I love the shade of this one. I will keep you guys posted on the shade Lovebirds, which looks beautiful. I'm sure it's gonna be really nice. Again, highly recommend those single shadows from Sydney Grace, especially that inner corner shade and this shimmer. Honestly, if you pick just two, these two I feel like would look good on anyone. But I think that's it for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Let me give you one last reminder. If you have not yet subscribed, make sure to do that before you leave, and I will see you guys soon in my next video. Bye.